What is this here? What up, what up? Back once again with the Pokemon Go video. I didn't make one for a while because there's no real updates from Niantic, and at the moment I'm just sort of catching the most that I can and slowly leveling up. I'm really taking it slowly so I don't burn out on the game. I don't start hating it before they actually start doing any meaningful updates, and then it's just going to be uninstalled by that time. But without sounding too negative, today we're going to talk about IVs, and I've actually had a couple of people request a video from me or information in regards to that subject, so I'm just going to make this video now to try to explain it in full detail, or as much detail so I don't confuse people. Yeah, let's get straight into what IVs are. So IVs stand for individual values of Pokemon. When you catch a Pokemon, you can see its CP, and a lot of people are like, yeah, catch the Pokemon with the highest CP, then evolve that Pokemon, which will save you Stardust, it will save you candy, but you might end up with a Pokemon that ultimately, you know, when you get to level 40 and you meet another guy with the same Pokemon, his Pokemon might be higher in health and attack, despite that you caught your with a higher CP. And that's because of individual values, because each Pokemon has a certain limit on attack, stamina and defense. Now with the IVs being at full, potentially that Pokemon with 15, 15, 15, which is the highest number that the IVs go to, might be 15 points of stamina, attack and defense higher than the other Pokemon. If you're not following me, let me just read this piece from Poke Assistant, which is the main website that I use for calculating IVs. Each type of Pokemon has a base set of attributes for stamina, attack and defense. Each specific Pokemon is born with its own IV. If you and your friend meet a Magmar, let's say, and you're on the same level, probably the Magmar that you see on 728 CP, your friend is going to have on 728 CP. But when you catch them, their IVs and their attack, defense, and how much dust it will take them to power up to the next stage might be completely different. Therefore, they might ultimately end up with different strength, if that makes sense. The further increase these stats by 0 to 15 extra points, that's what I was talking about previously, you cannot change the IVs. So these IVs are set. And I do recommend only evolving Pokemon, especially with things like Magikarp, which, you know, I've got 5 Gyarados or 4 Gyarados now, and I don't really care about, you know, the IVs in Magikarp's Novolure, because I know that I will eventually catch a perfect one, you know, because I'll still be getting more and more Gyarados as the game progresses. But if it's something that you're really savoring the candy for, something like a Dragonite, or something like Charizard, Squirtle, or something like that, I wouldn't evolve anything before you check this IVs, because you might evolve something that had a good CP stat at the beginning, but ultimately it's not going to be as powerful as a Pokemon that would have IV 90%, 95%. Do these differences really make, you know, that much difference? Ultimately, not for most people. To be honest, people that are on level 11, 15 right now, they probably don't care about IVs and will never care about IVs, because they won't probably be fighting gyms at the same time as other people that are putting Pokemons that are level, you know, when they're level 25, stuff like that. The difference in between IVs being 0 and them being 15, so perfect, is only about 7 to 10%. That might account for, you know, a lag when you're attacking a gym or stuff like that. But if they introduce trading, if there's going to be friendly battles, you know, those tiny differences might give you the edge that you need against your opponent. And for people like me that like min-maxing stats, this is something that's really, really good and really, really important. It's something that's, you know, that just makes a difference in between catching a sea of Magikarps and catching a sea of Magikarps with potential gold on Magikarp in there that's going to have the perfect IVs, you know, or Dratinis, or any Pokemon that you really care for. I wouldn't really worry about IVs in Pokemons like Pidgeys or Rattatas, and, you know, I have a close to perfect Pidgeotto, but am I going to use him to fight gyms or leave him at gyms? Probably not, because there's hundreds of better Pokemons to put on a gym than a Pidgey. So I would really only check this with Pokemon that you really care about, you really want to have on your team. You know, and as it says here, these IVs make a small difference. It's only 7 to 10% better. 7 to 10% is, you know, it's not a big deal. But for some people, it is a massive deal. Okay, nonetheless, if having the best Pokemon is critical to you, this tool will help you to find hidden IV values that your Pokemon has, so you can decide to keep it or try for something better. The problem is now, at the moment, because there's no TMs, and because there's randomly chosen movesets after you evolve a Pokemon, something might happen to you, like it happened to me, where I found an Eevee with 98% IV perfection, and then I evolved her, and she ended up with like the worst ultimate attack. And yeah, she's really powerful in stats, but the second attack makes her really weak. So that's another thing that you might take into account, not to just heavily rely on one Pokemon that has a really high IV, but potentially keeping another one with slightly lower IV to be able to evolve him if the other one doesn't have moveset, because they might implement TMs later down the line, they might not. You know, knowing Niantic, they'll probably not, so my Vaporeon is pretty much useless. Yeah, Water Pulse. Great effect. Great. So let's get into some of the actual stats. So on the top of this page, you will see this. And it always starts with EV, which pops out ultimately that when he's put in those stats, the EV's got 15 attack, which is perfect, 15 defense, which is perfect, but only 2 stamina. Therefore, its perfection is 71.1%. This will almost never happen, that the stats will be exactly set. Usually it's going to be a range in between maximum potential perfection, minimum, and then an average, which you don't really care about. You really only care about maximum, you only really care about minimum. I would suggest that if the Pokemon that you care about, you want on your team, and for some reasons you really want their IVs to be good, don't bother with powering up in order to narrow down the selection. Any Pokemon that doesn't have a minimum IV higher than 80%, because you're gonna waste your candy and you might catch something better down the line. It's a long road in between level 1 to level 40, and there's gonna be plenty of more chance of catching a stronger Pokemon. So I wouldn't really worry about it. You know, I've got like this Growlithe. When you go down, I've got this Growlithe that is, where is this guy? Yeah, he's 75 to 82. So he's pretty good, but because Arcanine is such a strong fire Pokemon and I really want a strong Arcanine, I'm likely not gonna evolve this one. I might keep him just if my better one has a shitty moveset, you know, just to have a backup. But at the moment, even though I've got candy to evolve this Growlithe, I'm not gonna do that, just in order to find one with better IV. I usually name my Pokemon by the IVs, so this one is 83 to 88 IV, you know, Starmie, I don't really care about that. My Electabuzz is 40 to 80, and you know, one of the Pokemon that popped me out the exact IV straight from the beginning was this one, which is Victory Bell, which got Solar Beam, so that's why I'm keeping her on my main team and I actually powered her up. But the IV was 13, 11, 15. So now if we pop her in, let's see if it works even after we powered it up, because that's what you put in here. So you put in the name of the Pokemon, you put in the CP, which is 735, 1700, and then 115 hit points, and it takes 3500 just to power up. And so no combination found. Oh, because she's powered up. So you have to really check all those fields before you do it. So now I've got 2 different combinations which are the same essentially, because it's either 13, 12, 14 or it's 13, 11, 15. The distribution or the number of stats that are distributed is the same. And yeah, this is pretty good Victory Bell. Let's try with another one that we can power up. So I've got this Dratini that is, I am pretty certain it's 93.3%. The reason why I'm pretty certain is because I'll pop a screenshot on the screen just to show you what it started with before it was powered up. And it had 71% combinations and then a 93.3. Now when I started powering him up, it sort of put another variation in there, which was like 82%, but because it wasn't part of the selection at the beginning, I knew that it's the 93. And despite the fact that 93 was just 1/90 option out of like 5 to start with, this Pokemon is very likely to be 93.3, almost certainly. So let's put him here. Dratini, 663, 61, and 3500. Now, the possible two combinations is 93.3 and 82.2. Because this option wasn't there prior to me powering it up, I know that it's not it. But let's see if we power up this Dratini, because I'm gonna be evolving this Dratini anyway, and hopefully he's gonna get a Hyper Beam, otherwise I'm gonna cry. Yeah, let's power him up. So you got 14 CP, 1 health. So 677. Let's see if it narrows it down. Yeah, so 93.3, 82.2, 62, still 3500. Yeah, and this is now the perfection. So by powering up your Pokemon, sometimes you will narrow it down. Sometimes, however, the range will expand. That's why I was saying that the spreadsheet was slightly better, because it could track it for you, and you know, just seeing it in Excel is slightly better. But if you take screenshots, or if you remember the combinations, it's going to be easier for you. The higher the CP Pokemon is, usually the narrower the combination is. Not always. There's a couple of Pokemon that are really hard to determine, like Magikarps, because Magikarps have such a massive multiplier, it's like 10 to 13 times, that the ranges are crazy. So I've got one that is really high, but the range is 73 to 93. 20%, but it's still kind of high. 65 to 93 range, you know. 80 to 88, so that one is narrower, but is potentially lower than some of the other ones. So, you know, you have to sometimes risk it. Like I said, because I already have 4 Gyarados, I don't really care that much about evolving another Magikarp, because I'll just keep catching them, because I live on a Magikarp river, fortunately, and that's why I have so many Magikarps. And yeah, so I think that will sort of explain it. If you have any more questions, please ask me in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you. This video is sort of unprepared, and I was babbling it all in one go. Hopefully I made sense of it. So just to recap it, put Pokemon in this Poke Assistant IV calculator. Once you catch them, this is not a bannable offense, because it doesn't drag any information from Niantic servers or anything like that. So I doubt that they will ever give bans for using websites like this. Don't worry about it. Put the values in there. Don't power up a Pokemon that you don't really want on your team, because you'll just be spending candy and Stardust. Don't power up Pokemon that are not over 80% IV perfection to start with, because again, you might just be wasting your Stardust on something that might turn out to be IV perfect of 50% in the end. And yeah, just, you know, don't stress it, because like, I've got 300 Dratini candies, I still haven't caught one that would be over 95%, and then the Eevee that I got, that was 98%, you know, got Water Pulse. So you guys have plenty of time until level 40 to catch some perfect Pokemon. And yeah, with that being said, I'm saying bye to you. Catch some Pokemon, try to be patient with Niantic, and until I see you guys in the next one, bye! And take care. Give me a thumbs up as well, you know, and comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. I'm going bye.